Hello, welcome everyone to the HeartWorks quarterly meeting. We're so excited to have you here today, and I hope that video got you smiling and excited to hear about the wonderful updates that we have to share. I want to start off today by talking about this quote, "Alone we can do so little, together we can do so much." This quote is inspirational to us because we know that it takes many, many people to accomplish the goals that we have, and we have big goals. So if you take a look at this list here, this is the group of people who is working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, traveling across the country, working in the laboratory, reading literature, and doing everything in their power to work towards a cure for congenital heart defects. There's no way to say thank you enough for the people on this list. And although I wish I had time to read through every single name, we'd be here all day because there are so many of us working tirelessly to do this work. I do want to make a special call out today to Kim Files, as she's our program administrator, and today is administration day. So thank you, Kim, for all the work that you do, I know, to keep us all on track and keep things moving. Here's just a couple of snapshots of the HeartWorks team, the Mayo team, and members all in the wild. So you can see that we have a lot of fun together. We get to do events and tours, but we're also working with patients in the laboratory and bringing hope to families, to doctors, and to patients all over. I pulled a few quotes today to share with you, things that I've overheard in my time at HeartWorks. And I just want you to take a moment and realize that this is the group of people who is behind the scenes that you're not always going to see in front of the camera, or you're not going to know they're there. But one of the quotes that stuck out to me was about a year ago when our sweet Ava was in and visiting at the laboratory. And we left Ava after she said goodbye. And one of our HeartWorks members said to me, "Oh, when we saw Ava in the office today, it reminded me why I come to work every day." And I think that's so true. This is a lot of times a very hard job, but we're motivated every single day by the families and the people that we get to impact. There are many, many people, but there is one focus. So of course, that is our why. Our why at HeartWorks is the individuals that are impacted by CHD. And those are babies and children and adults and people who are not yet born or just finding out in utero. And that's why we continue to strive for updates to and bringing the ideas out of the lab and into our patients. And that's why we're all here today, because we either love someone with CHD, are affected by CHD, or work closely in the labs and on these protocols. I want to start today with a story from the heart. This is a really great part of my job, is I get to sit down with families and I get to talk to them about their journey with congenital heart defect. And I thought it was apropos that today we're presenting to you Aaron. Aaron is 14 years old and he was diagnosed with HLHS in utero. He's had many, many procedures over his short life. He loves football. And as recently as September 1st of last year, he was listed for a heart transplant. And the reason I say it's apropos that we're presenting him today is because this week is Pediatric Transplant Awareness Week, April 24th through the 30th. So although we do everything in our powers to avoid transplant, we know it's a beautiful gift, and we want to acknowledge Aaron and his journey, how he got to where he is today. So I got to speak with Aaron and his mom, Holly, and I also got to meet his dad and his sister, and it was a really inspiring day and time that I got to spend with them. I will admit that I ended up in tears and it got emotional for me because they have quite a story. So the picture here that you'll see on the top left is Holly. You can barely tell, but in that picture, she was pregnant, about 20 weeks pregnant. And I think that was Christmas. About I think it was the day after Christmas, she was heading back from visiting family in Chicago up to Moorhead, Minnesota, where she's from. And at her 20-week ultrasound, the doctors told her there was something wrong with her baby's heart. She was so blissfully unaware that she didn't even really realize the severity of this conversation. And her doctor took her aside and drew 4 chambers and a heart on a whiteboard and then erased 2 of them. That's when she found out that her son, Aaron, was going to be born with HLHS. In that moment, when she was being presented with her son's diagnosis, she was asked to make a really difficult decision. She was encouraged to make this difficult decision, and Holly was at a loss of what to do. She told me in this powerful moment that she called her husband and she said, I have a very short amount of time to make a very big decision. And that's when her husband said, it's my boy and we're doing this. And that day they named him Aaron, and they decided to go on this journey together as a family. Now, mind you, Emma, Aaron's older sister, was not quite a year old at this time. They're very close in age. So she was wrangling a small child, as well as just learning this diagnosis. As many of our HLHS children and adults go through, Aaron had his Norwood at 5 days old. He had his Glenn then at 10 months old. And in between his Glenn and Fontan, he did have some aortic interventions. And then finally his Fontan at 3 years old. Everything seemed to be going well after his Fontan surgery at 3 years old. But then at his 4th birthday, he wasn't able to blow out his candles. And his mom, Holly, told me that that was a pretty powerful moment, and they knew something was wrong. So he went in and had to have additional interventions. They told me about a Make-A-Wish trip to Disney that they took shortly thereafter. And they were so excited to see Disney. Aaron was a big fan of O'Toodles. And while they were at Disney, it was just so hot. And Aaron actually passed out at Disney World and wasn't able to continue to attend the parks. Excuse me if I get emotional about this part, but it was really impactful because at that time, Holly decided to take Aaron to the beach and watch the waves and just have a calm moment. And there was a woman there that spoke to Holly and said to her, at this time, you're going to take him to the ocean and things are going to change. Either this is going to be the last time that you have this moment, or things are going to change for the better. And just know that this is going to be a powerful moment in Aaron's life. Luckily, Aaron made the choice and the family was able to get through this, and he was able to go on and be very healthy and live a very exciting and full life. But it was a very powerful moment. And even to this date, Holly shares with me that Aaron loves the ocean. And if he ever gets a chance to choose the vacation, he always picks the ocean. It's just powerful, the waves, the sound, the moment that they had together. Today, Aaron loves to play football, and he's always trying to excel and continuously do better in school. Transplant never really came up throughout their journey. I think we all know that oftentimes HLHS, single ventricle, can end in transplant, but it was never really talked about until in middle school. Aaron actually got up from taking a test and he passed out. Every person living with heart disease, their nightmare. And of course, the teacher, I'm sure, was scared to death. He just passed out. And so they ended up having a lot of different tests and catheterizations and change of medications. And Holly sort of akined it to almost like an oil change. You get an oil change in your car every year. Aaron got a cath every year. He would have a balloon procedure or switch up his medication. And they sort of lived like that for a little bit until last April, a year ago, he was diagnosed with scoliosis. And Aaron actually noticed it himself when he was outside playing football, of course, and he leaned over and he was like, something's on my back. Something feels funny. When they went in to look at his back and his spine, they also looked at his heart and found that his ejection fraction had lowered, and it was time to start talking about heart transplant. So last summer, Aaron and his family traveled down to Mayo to do the traditional transplant workup, and he was listed on September 1st of 2021 at Mayo Clinic. Today, Aaron is still going to school and he's listed as 2A, which means he's home and he's not on any intravenous medications, but he is waiting for that call. And when I asked Aaron, why is he talking to me? Why does he care about what we're doing at HeartWorks? And he said to me, this work may not help me, but it can help someone like me someday. And to that, I want to say to Aaron that that is not what our goal is, to help someone like you someday. Our goal is to help you, Aaron. That is what this team that we presented at the beginning is working tirelessly to do. We want transplant to go from someday to never. And that is what we're going to be sharing, our clinical updates and how we're doing on that, so that we can continue to impact lives like Aaron and others, so that they don't have to say this won't help me, but it will help someone. And then we can start believing that it will help them. With that, I want to say thank you to Aaron, Holly, and the rest of your family for sharing your story. And I'm going to turn it over to Tim in the lab to give you a clinical study update.
Thanks, Allie. It's great to see everybody joining us on this webinar today. Thanks for spending your time with us today to go through the update on our quarterly program for HeartWorks and where we're at with our clinical studies and our product development. Before I get started, I'd like to echo what Allie said, is thank you to the 60+ team members that are working tirelessly every day. What we're going to share with you today with a snapshot of the update is only a function of the hard work of people that work every single day in the lab behind me to make this vision a reality. We like to pride ourselves in action and moving things forward and doing things on a time course that, as Aaron said, nobody truly believes this is going to affect them. We truly believe it will. And if we do our job well, we can move this science out of the lab, get it into clinical trials, and create new options to make heart transplant for congenital heart disease a thing of the past. So where are we at today? So a big focus in our program right now, across our entire program, is focused today on the beating cardiac tissue. Some of you have heard us talk about this, but I'd like to give you an update of where we're at with this technology, because it's really a major focal point for the day-to-day activity of what the team is working on currently. So just as a reminder, the video that's hopefully playing here on your screen is the video that many of you have seen with the beating heart tissue that we have created. For reference, this was done almost 8-9 years ago. This is Bill Weir when he was at ABC Nightline. This is his little heart that he did a report on. This heart that we bioengineered early on came from skin, from a biopsy that we reprogram it. Takes many, many months to do. And ultimately, HeartWorks, we build hearts. Our primary platform is to convert this into cardiac tissue and figure out how best to use this technology to rebuild hearts, building stronger hearts, avoiding transplant, and improving the long-term outcomes for children and adults with congenital heart disease. So that video there has inspired the team for almost a decade now to figure out what it takes to get it out of the lab, out of the small plate, scaled, and get it into production that can make a real difference in the lives of all the patients we know today. Next slide. So for those of you that have never done this, this is our team member, Allie. She went through this procedure herself and has graciously shared the video. That is the little snippet of a 1 millimeter punch biopsy that was collected from underneath her arm and put in this media of Kool-Aid looking media that gives all the nutrients to keep that skin living tissue. That's the piece of tissue that we start with for this entire 9-month process. We bring that into the lab and we'll show you some pictures just to remind you of what we do to convert this piece of skin into a heart muscle. So within weeks of that biopsy, such as Allie did, the cells are growing out in a plate. You're looking under a microscope right now. You're looking at thousands and thousands of cells we call fibroblasts, or the glue that holds our skin together. These fibroblasts will grow out of that punch biopsy and cover the plate as you're looking at here. We grow it to enough cells that then we reprogram the cells. We train them to become what you were when you're an embryonic stem cell. So what you're seeing here is a colonies of cells that are very pristine, These look beautiful. The teams in the lab has done an amazing job to cultivate these cells and get them looking perfect. These cells, what you're looking at right here, are pluripotent cells, which give rise to every single cell in your body. And this is a really critical starting point for our cardiac differentiation protocol. So once we have it here, we can now scale it to large scale cultures, 1 liter cultures. We do it in spinner cultures. Again, we're in about 4 to 5 months of work right now from that original biopsy. And we can scale the production of these cells to the point where we can start training them to become your beating heart tissue. Here's a video under the microscope in the lab. This is a real video that the lab looks at every day when they take care of these cells and they're making decisions on what to do. You can watch these masses of cells contracting, quivering, and moving around. This is literally beating heart muscle cells that have been now about 7 to 8 months into the manufacturing process that are genetically identical to, in this case, if it was Allie's cells, it'd be genetically identical to her where the skin biopsy came from. And now we have a product that we can start imagining what it would take to put that into the heart of a patient and make it strong enough. Well, to give you a better scope and scale of what we're talking about, here's the 5, 7, 10, 15 are milliliter volume. So we're talking about 4 milliliters of a cell pellet. If you look on the bottom of this tube, where all the cells have been pelleted down in a centrifuge, spun down, and that pellet of cells that you're looking at there is about 1/4 of the heart mass of you and I. It's about the number of cardiomyocytes that a baby is born with as a newborn. So that's the scale that this manufacturing process that the team does every single day in the lab has been able to get us to this point. That's a critical point because now it's real, and now we can start planning our pathway to a cure. And our pathway to a cure requires FDA approval and FDA monitoring that starts in the upper left hand here with animal testing, preclinical models. We test all of our products in the fewest animals possible in a safe and in a regulated environment as needed to be able to make sure that our products can be used safely when we transplant them into the heart to make somebody's heart bigger, better, and stronger. So it starts with animal trials for the safety of this. We then move into, on the top right here, the phase 1 clinical trials. This is where we literally treat the first patient. And to do that, we'll talk a little bit more about the steps we have to go through to get to that point. But that's obviously a critical juncture, moving it out of the lab and getting it into the first few patients. And then on the bottom here, the traditional pathway that many of you heard us talk about and know a lot about is we go through phase 2 trials and phase 3 trials. And each trial includes more patients and focuses on better outcomes and better efficacy so that we can generate the data that we can convince the FDA that this is indeed not only safe, but effective at making the heart muscle bigger and stronger. And let me remind you that our pathway to a cure at HeartWorks, We Build Hearts, is our fundamental belief that we need to build a heart to be bigger and stronger to cure congenital heart disease. If we take a single ventricle heart and we make it stronger, we can alleviate the problems that the liver faces, the gut faces, and other tissues in the body face, and we can improve the endurance of these patients so that their long-term outcomes are improved. We don't believe that this could be the only solution for these children and young adults, but we do believe it's a critical bottleneck. And the cells that you just saw coming from an arm, creating this beating heart tissue, we believe is a game-changing technology that will allow us to move this science and this field forward in dramatic ways. So a phase 1 clinical trial, this bioengineered product, we're squarely looking at the next step of what it takes to get the first patient treated. So as an update from the last time we've talked, we have completed all of the FDA required preclinical testing. We're in the final stages of writing that data up, doing the full analysis, and matching it with the right patient population to be our first patients to receive this product in the world. That step requires the immediate submission of an IND It's known for an investigational new drug application for the FDA. Our team is committed to submitting that in June of this year. And every single day, I would say 70% of our team is focused on this goal. It's a major, major focus of the team right now. It's never been done with the FDA. This will be the first in the world for an iPS bioengineered cardiac product to be used in clinical trials. But then once we get that, which we will, and it will take some back and forth with the FDA, we'll then go through this feedback cycles with the FDA, hopefully addressing all of their questions and concerns, and we'll come off clinical hold as soon as possible. As soon as we come off a clinical hold with the FDA, we'll then submit it to the institutional IRB, Institutional Review Board. This is the board that will look at it from a patient safety perspective. And then we'll activate our consortium sites with this protocol. We'll begin recruiting patients and doing the skin biopsy. And then we'll be aiming for treating our first patient as quickly as possible. This cycle of this phase 1 clinical trial, having never been done before with the FDA, has a lot of unknowns in terms of timeline, but this team has been focused on this for nearly 8 years. And we believe we're right where we need to be able to give the FDA the data they need to be able to help us move this forward as quickly as possible. So a couple of definitional things. I already told you what an IND is. This is a really important term that you'll hear people talk about. We have 3 INDs in our program right now. This will be the 4th. It's an application that the FDA reviews, and they look at all of our preclinical data, all of our manufacturing data, all of the things that happen behind me, that it's done in a safe and effective way from a reproducibility standpoint. This is what gives the FDA the confidence that what we're doing can be done reproducibly and safely. That's a critical step. And once you have an IND off clinical hold with the FDA, you then have permission to do the clinical trials with an IRB and with institutions. So this is squarely what the next step for us is. And then ultimately, Institutional Review Board at IRB will also be required to be able to get the ethics, the patient safety, all of that approved by a formal body to make sure that we're doing things in the right way, as safe as possible way, and with a pathway to learn to move this technology forward. So these are 2 hurdles that we've done multiple times before with other products, but these are the 2 hurdles that are squarely in front of our team and what they've been working on currently. So let me remind you what we mean by the pathway to the cure. And given that this is a quarterly update, I just talked to you quite a bit about the 3rd line here, the bioengineered cardiac lineage. That's the game-changing technology that we are leading the world in, of getting it into clinical trials for the first time anywhere with an autologous product that's genetically similar to the patient that we started. But the other 2 products above this, let me tell you an update of where we're at with this. So the cord blood trial, many of you know this. We have completed and closed our phase 2 clinical trial since the last time we met. So the blue purple box there, the phase 2 trial along this pathway from left to right, has been closed out and completed for patient enrollment. We now have 50 patients that have been treated with umbilical cord blood at the time of the Glenn operation. And we have 45 control patients that did not receive the product. These patients were patients most likely without a product collected at birth, but they're growing through the clinical trial phases of data collection so that we have a compare group to compare our products to. So 50 treated and 45 control patients that did not receive the product are now being followed in a systematic way across our consortium, across 7 active sites that are following these patients. That data will be primary endpoint, a 3-month follow-up data will be completed later this summer, early fall, and we'll begin being able to give final reports on what we've learned in that cohort of a phase 2B trial. So that's a major advancement. Thank you to the consortium sites across North America that have contributed patients, and thank you to the patients. 95 individual families have individually contributed to that study design, which is amazing. It's the largest study for regenerative medicine and congenital heart disease anywhere in the globe. The bone marrow product is completed the 10-patient phase 1 study, and this has been completed for a while. We are publishing the data right now, and we're working to secure the partnerships and the resources to make a plan to bring that to a phase 2 clinical trial. So that hasn't had any updates since the last time we've talked, but it is still sitting at that phase that could make the transition into a phase 2 trial as soon as we have the team and the resources built to be able to do that. And then the third line here is the bioengineered. Super excited about getting out of the preclinical phase and getting FDA permission to treat our first patient, which is the stage that we're at in 2022. And then on the bottom here, we continue to discuss the concepts of a bioengineered mechanical pump, maybe a tissue engineered pump. We're still working on animal models that allows us to create the system to test various systems. And so more to come on that, but that still resides in the design and animal phases. Now you're wondering what these dollar amounts are on this slide for sure when you look at this. And the dollar amounts at each of these phases gives you an estimate of the resources that we are estimating it takes for us to get the science out of the lab and into the next phase. And so like the cord blood, the phase 3 clinical trial, all loaded with all of the resources, is estimated to be a $10 million clinical trial. The phase 2 for the bone marrow is estimated to be nearly $7 million. So these are estimate dollar amounts that we are responsible to generate the resources, generate the partnerships to be able to execute. These is an ongoing future state that we have to stay committed to. But let me highlight one other column here that some of you may not be familiar with, and that's on the far right-hand side in green on this slide. If and when we have products that are approved by the FDA that are safe and effective, there are going to be many, many children and young adults that could benefit from these products. And we've estimated the market size where these products could be used to be able to cure congenital heart disease. These are big numbers to us. They're small numbers to pharmaceutical industry partners. And so what we have done, our pathway to a cure, is to not only raise the philanthropic resources and institutional partnerships to get the products approved with the FDA, but we are committed to continuously manufacturing and distributing these products, and this revenue that could be generated from the patient care experience would be able to sustain our mission and manufacturing. Therefore, we wouldn't have to raise philanthropic dollars to continue to produce this, but we would be billing insurance companies and providing this as cheaply as we possibly can in our facilities to make this available to as many people as possible. That's our commitment, that's our goal, and that's the pathway to the cure. And that's a quick update on our 4 products of where we're at in clinical trials that we've completed, clinical trials we're planning for, and our big focus is the bioengineered cells, which is a game-change technology that we're on the cusp of submitting to the FDA for the first time in the world. Those are some major accomplishments in the last quarter, and it could not be done without all of you participating in the lab and at your homes to make this vision a reality. We'd like to share a video with you that better articulates the nuts and bolts and details of this platform, the pathway to a cure.
And while we share this video, please feel free to jump into the Q&A session, Q&A on your Zoom, and we'll answer any questions after the video that you may have.
One in 100 children are born with a congenital heart defect, or CHD. 25% of those will require a life-saving surgery within the first year of life. Current healthcare options only treat the symptoms, not the problem. And for many of these children, that's just not enough. That's where we come in. HeartWorks designs, builds, tests, and delivers new treatment options in an effort to cure CHD. The HeartWorks platform starts with financial support. These dollars build a dedicated scientific team, which then translates the best ideas from the lab into real-world treatment options. Currently, the technology exists to rejuvenate, regenerate, and rebuild the human heart. By creating stronger hearts, we can eliminate congenital heart defects. Our platform allows us to work across multiple institutions and operations to conduct and complete the essential studies required to secure FDA approval of these new treatments. Once an FDA approval is secured, our platform will allow the reimbursement of these treatments through insurance to anyone requiring them. Any profits from these treatments will then expand and accelerate our ability to produce additional treatment options. HeartWorks is the purpose-built platform with inputs and outputs that allows the community to invest in the cure. Because of donations, more families will be able to participate in clinical research, and because of these participating families, we are accelerating towards a cure. HeartWorks. We build hearts.
We love that video because it's aspirational. It allows us to focus on where we're at and where we're going and communicate the platform that we've built. Part of this platform has been built based on the advisors that are on this screen here. All of our consortium members from 11 consortium sites across North America are part of our advisory board. The surgeons, many of them you see here, industry partners and coaches and mentors are all part of this advisory board to help us keep our focus on what matters the most, curing congenital heart disease, be aspirational about the platform we're building to be able to allow this to go faster in the future, and to be grounded in the technology that we're doing today to make a difference on the patients that are immediately being treated and the hope that we're giving to these patients and families with the trials today. So thank you to all our advisors. Thank you to the 60+ people that work in our program. And thank you to the families that have trusted us to be able to collect your samples and treat you at various stages of these clinical trials. It takes all of you to make this a reality. So I think we might have some questions, Allie.
Yes. So the first question is, when will the trials be up and ready to go?
Yeah, great question. And it reminds me that I failed to mention one thing. So the cord blood trial that I said with the Glenn operation is closed to enrollment. But since we last talked last quarter, we've actually launched a new clinical trial that I failed to tell you about, which is the same cord blood being used at the Fontan. So anybody that is having a Fontan surgery in the coming months, please get in contact with us, because there's an opportunity to use your cells, but there's also an opportunity, if you don't have cells, to participate in the control of this trial. So we're using the cells at the time of 3 to 4 years of age with the Fontan surgery. That trial is currently open across our consortium. But perhaps the question you're asking is our bioengineered product that we talked a lot about today, the beating heart muscle, with FDA approval, with IRB approval, which are two things we can't control the timelines on. We expect by the end of this year to be recruiting our first patients to go the biopsy and begin the 7 to 9 month manufacturing process to create a product that's ready to go. So hopefully next year, 2023, we will be delivering a product into the first patient, is our goal.
Thank you, Tim. Another question. Is one of the requirements in order for a child to be considered, do they need to be under the care of one of the hospitals in the consortium? This person, their grandson, is under the care of the team at Boston's Children's Hospital.
Boston Children's Hospital is a world-class institution. Your grandson is in great hands. We are not able to deliver the products during a surgery at a hospital that's not part of our consortium. This is the requirement of our training and our infrastructure. So currently, the Fontan study is open within our consortium site. As we roll out the bioengineered, it will also be within our consortium site. Having said that, we're always looking to grow our consortium. And I know I have some upcoming phone calls with folks at Boston Children's to continue to talk about that. So our consortium isn't fixed. Our consortium continues to grow. So all of the above is our commitment to making this more available.
Thank you. If our surgery center is not a consortium center, what is the best way to start asking how our child can participate in clinical trials when the time is right?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we have had many cases where patients from other institutions can travel into one of our consortium sites and have the cells delivered, the procedures done. So there's ways that we can help offset the cost of travel. There's ways that our consortium sites can help accommodate that. It's not ideal to not be able to do this at every institution, but as you can imagine, there's good reasons why we limit it to trained facilities to do these things. So reach out to us, let us work with you. And especially if you're in the Fontan stage, that's a critical area that we can work with you to figure out what may be the best option for you. This is open to everybody. It's just a matter of getting the logistics stitched together.
For families whose children did not have umbilical cord blood banked, can they help with the trials?
Yeah, so the 45 patients that have already our controls are doing an amazing contribution to our trials. So anybody undergoing a Fontan surgery right now, even if you don't have cells, can participate in the data collection and be part of a data collection that allows us to determine how to safely and effectively move these technologies forward. That's the most immediate this quarter opportunity for families to participate. And we'll continue to communicate other opportunities as more trials come online.
Would we be seeking, or at what point would we be seeking, bioengineered cardiac lineage or bioengineered pump pathways for emergency use authorization, specifically for people with failing Fontans?
Yeah, no, all of these pathways are open to us, and we're exploring those and being aware of those, because yes, as you can imagine, there's not 20 years time for these patients when they get into that situation to wait for approval. So the approval and an IND allows patients to consent into the clinical trial. So having the FDA IND application approved by the FDA gives us permission to engage people in the research studies. And our goal is to make that as available to as many people as we can afford, that we can manufacture, and that we can treat. And so this should not be limited to some people and not others. The IRB research pathway gives us access to everybody. The emergency use, it speaks a little bit downstream to when we start trying to market a product, charge for a product, and get reimbursement for that. We're not at that point yet. So the IND and the IRB pathway would allow these bioengineered cells to be used in research studies. We need to raise the money, the partnerships to make more of these studies available. And with the FDA and the IRB pathway, we should be able to make that available to many, many patients.
Great. Thanks, Tim. And if you have more questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A. I'm going to continue with our update here and move on to fundraising. But if there are more questions, we can always stick around at the end and continue to answer them for you. So on to fundraising. Giving is not just about making a donation, it's about making a difference. And something that everyone here today can go on and do is jump onto Facebook and start a fundraiser. You can scan this QR code that I'll leave up for a minute here, or you can go to facebook.com/fund/WeBuildHearts. We are on that list. And I have to tell you that in Q1 of 2022, we have raised over $20,000 thanks to our fierce followers and people sharing HeartWorks. And we not only get the donations from the community, but we continue to spread our message and build awareness. You'll see some notes on the bottom there and individuals who have started Facebook fundraisers, and every single one of them have made their goals or exceeded them. And even the goal of $100 or $200 can make an impact on the work that we're doing. A lot of people think of Facebook fundraisers as just a birthday or a significant heart anniversary, but really there's always a good time to bring awareness to CHD and the work that we're doing at HeartWorks. And the more that we can talk about it, the more people we can reach. And we want to continue to reach people for our recruitment and making sure that they're aware, as well as to give hope and to continue to build our community. One of these people, one of those who have built a Facebook fundraiser and took it in their own hands to raise money for HeartWorks was Larissa. So Larissa is here today. Hi, Larissa. She was able to raise almost $2,000, and she had a fantastic event she put on herself where she had a bunch of friends over and served tea and called it a Larissa's Heart Tea in honor of her son, Daxton. And this was just a really special event where Larissa was able to share her journey with CHD, the work that we are doing at HeartWorks, as well as she played a video that we have of our lab tour where Tim and the team go more into details on the work that we're doing. So if you want to host an event like this, or if you just want to learn more information about how to get out there and help fundraise for HeartWorks, please reach out to myself or my colleague Kala, and we're happy to join you. Thank you so much, Larissa, for the hard work that you did in spreading awareness for Daxton. Another heart warrior that you may have met by way of HeartWorks in the past is Miss Bella. So Bella and her team, her community was able to raise $100,000 recently. They pledged it at our virtual dinner, and we were able to celebrate with them in Pennsylvania and dance the night away, bid on auction items, and have just a great event. The HeartWorks team, a bunch of us went. It was just so much fun. Tim gave a beautiful speech, and we were happy to be there to receive this generous pledge. Thank you, Bella and team. And then many of you may be aware of, and if you aren't, you will be now, is our Cures in the Works inaugural dinner happened in February. This was a really, really exciting event, and it was our first, but definitely not our last. We were able to ship 375 meal kits that included 750 pounds of superior fresh salmon. We had 600 bottles of wine. We reached 38 US states and territories, and we had more than 600 people present on a Zoom meeting in February. We had 26 fundraising teams that raised money, and we had over 800 individual donations going towards this clinical trial that Tim just told you about. All in all, we got together on a Zoom meeting that evening. We cooked dinner, we laughed, we cried, we shared stories, and we raised over $712,000 together towards curing CHD. This was a magical evening. We're all still buzzing, and we are so excited to do it again next year. Greg Olson was our host, and he has graciously offered to join us again next year. So we're going to hold him to that, and we can't wait to double the amount of teams that we have and double the amount of impact that we have. So if you were not a team member, did not start a fundraising team, or were not in attendance, please email me. We'll make sure you make it to the list, and we are already in the planning phases of this. We're so excited for year 2. One of the inspirations and one of the big pieces of this event was the HeartWorks wine. So our friends at Porter Family Vineyards donated over 600 bottles of wine, and we were able to do a custom label that was designed by one of our heart warriors. So this year we're going to do another label contest. So please make sure that you go on and you email Kala to get the template, and she will send it to you so you can design a label for the wine. The wine is delicious. The bottle is a great memento, and we are so honored to have Porter Family Vineyards donate this so that we can have this event again next year. All of these drawings need to be submitted by May 9th. And I want to reiterate that they have to be using the template that Kala will provide. So please make sure you get involved there. Heart Warrior, Heart Family. It's just a beautiful, beautiful gift and a wonderful night to be able to celebrate together. Lastly, we have our virtual lab tours. So you got a little bit of a taste of what goes on in the lab, and Tim's down there right now talking about it. But really, the lab tours are a great opportunity for a smaller group, a little bit more intimate setting where Tim takes you through the lab, and individuals who work in the lab take you through the process in a little bit more detail. It's really exciting. We meet a lot of great people during these lab tours. We just had one today, and our next one is May 18th. You can find out more information and sign up at our website, webuildhearts.org/lab tours. So please make sure you sign up for a lab tour if you haven't already. And if you want to host an event like Larissa did, or you want a copy of the video recording, if you can't make the times that we have scheduled, please reach out and we'll make sure we get that to you. So I want to close today by talking about the dollars in and the life-saving therapies out. Our 2021 goal was to raise $500,000 in our first year as a nonprofit. And we are just so excited to announce that we were able to surpass that goal, and we were able to raise $863,280 in 2021 because of all of you. So thank you so much for your generosity, for your activity. And a lot of that is spreading the word and reaching more families and more people. In 2022, we are setting our goals high at $2 million to continue the life-saving work that we are planning on doing. And to date, we have raised $500,000. So we are currently on track, but we need your help to continue to make those goals happen. If you're interested right now, you can text Cure CHD to 243-725. You can share that number on your Facebook. You can start that Facebook fundraiser, and you can join us in other ways. So please don't hesitate to reach out to Kala, to myself, or to anyone at HeartWorks about ways to raise money and continue this work. Lastly, I would be remiss to not go back to the beginning when we talked about Aaron, and to this week being Pediatric Organ Donation Month and April being Donate Life Month. So you still have a few days left in Donate Life Month to register as an organ donor. So if you haven't done so, although we hope to someday make transplant a thing of the past and obsolete, we know today there are still many people who live with CHD who are waiting for those organs, and we want to continue to spread the word on their behalf. So once again, thank you all for joining us today. If you have questions, you can email me, Allie@webuildhearts.org. You can donate by texting Cure CHD. You can start a Facebook fundraiser, or you can join us on the lab tour. So we hope to see you all soon and to continue the good work that you're doing, the donations, and we appreciate everything that you've done to continue to build awareness around congenital heart defects.